Hi, everybody. Welcome to our second week in our Marketing and Branding Your Business series. It's the first series we're doing in 2020 in the group, and we're really excited to have you watching and joining with us and learning with us. And Crystal is here, my partner in crime. And we are going to dive right in. We're going to talk about, we're going to start with your guys' website and talk a little bit about messaging and then the mechanics of your website as well. And before we started recording, Crystal and I were chatting and talking about how, it's the look and feel of your website is important. The messaging of your website is important. But if you're, we do want to make one note that unless your business plan is ready to go and your business is ready to go and you're really clear on what your services are and what problem you solve, then you're probably not ready to do a website at all. So I think, Crystal, do you want to speak a little bit more about that, just so we make sure everyone's on the same page?
Yeah, website is kind of the first step when you're getting your business online and you're getting going. Some people start with social media and integrate into a website. But the biggest mistake that I know Claire and I see people making is they haven't put any thought into what their branding is going to be. I noticed that people pick things just to pick things. They pick a design just because they like it. They pick an idea for user experience, which is, where do people go? What do they see? How do they navigate? Where do they go from there? They pick things just to pick things. I've met people in business that, had an elephant as part of their logo, or this color or that, or something or another. And I say, well, what does this represent? And they say, well, I had to pick something, so I just picked it.
Yeah, pink's my favorite color.
Yeah. So if it doesn't have that meaning, right? If that definition isn't clearly there, you're not ready to start making investments and all, because if you think branding is expensive in the beginning, it's way more expensive to fix it if you just kind of arbitrarily do it. So the marketing audit that we talked about last week that we'll be using in all these weeks moving forward really is that important. It's an essential first step if you're just now ready to take these steps of getting these things done. And it's also really essential if you're rebranding and saying it's time to redo all these things. So we just want to make sure that you know that those are really, really critical parts of everything we're putting together for you.
And if you didn't grab the worksheet, it's really helpful to have it to follow along, and also just to kind of check in on your business, whether you're branding for the first time or you're rebranding or you're just seriously sitting down to think about your marketing goals for 2020. So I'll throw the link again in the comments below this video, but I would definitely grab it if you're following along. And so, last week we kind of just did an overview of, what is branding even, and why is it important, and why does it matter? And I think now we want to jump in and talk about your website. If you've never done an audit of your website, or you've never done a user experience test of your website, or even really looked at your website and said, does it fit with my branding? I think that's what we want to talk about this week.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll kind of dive into more examples, and I'll make sure that Claire and I pick on me because I underwent this process recently. But, it's really important that you rely on your network too, because you need those accountability partners in business that can come to you when it's time and say, hey, this doesn't fit who you are anymore. Yeah. So just always be open-minded to that, because it's not a bad thing. It just means that the room for growth is higher, and that's always an ideal position to be in.
Yeah, and I think a first great question to ask yourself is, does my website look and feel like me, like my business? Does the identity match what you're saying offline when you're chatting with people, when you're talking about your company, the words that you use? Is that all kind of embodied on your website as well?
Yep.
Excuse me, I'm fighting a bit of cold. I also think that the second thing you want to do, and this is really important, and I've gotten feedback on actually my own personal website on this before, is, are you clearly communicating what pain points you solve for your client? So is it clear exactly what you do and exactly what your services are? Is it easy to find what your services are? I think that's important too in terms of copy, but then also in terms of like user experience. If you can't quickly find what you're looking for on a website, you're going to start losing people, or they're going to bounce, or they're going to, so that kind of more long form copy, that's also important, telling people about your business story, telling people about what you do, why you do it, communicating quality and reviews and happy clients is all really important. But I think one of the first things is like, can someone land on your website and very quickly tell how you can help them?
Ooh, hallelujah. Ooh, girl, I'm getting a spiritual experience, because in all seriousness, no, though, this is so critical, and it's so overlooked I mean, working with a lot of website designers, they aren't copy specialists. They aren't necessarily branded. And it's just, man, these are things that a lot of us have gotten wrong. I know I got this wrong the first time for sure, all of these things. So it's just like, ooh, it's speaking to my soul, y'all. This is good stuff, and easy to navigate, right? That, kind of people finding everything and knowing where to go is the experience enjoyable? Is it easy for them? Do they have a feeling? Like, are you taking them on a journey? Is it too many clicks, and is it too complicated, or is it fun? Is it interactive? You can be professional and still be very fun, and you can have a good time in your copy, but still be very concise. And I think that's super important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that I always suggest to people, and I do think it's a really good idea, is it, and some of you may have done this or may have not, but do a focus group. I think we place so little emphasis on focus groups these days. I mean, major marketing companies still swear by them for good reason. They are effective. But I think sometimes for smaller or medium-sized businesses, stuff like that can get a little bit overlooked. And I think just not underestimating the value of just good old fashioned like market research. And it can even just be like, 5 to 10 of your close friends, and just kind of polling them. And I think sometimes it can help when they're all in the same room, because good ideas tend to be born out of like dialogue and conversation, right? So rather than just asking someone, oh, hey, what do you think of my website? If you can get, those five or six people in a room, put out snacks and make it a good time. But then they can kind of start to feed off of each other. Like, oh, well, I had a hard time understanding this. And then someone else will say, oh yeah, actually I did too. And here's why. And take extensive notes from that. And then that will kind of inform you how people are using your website. And there's actually services that you can also pay to kind of have people test the user experience on your website. But I honestly think that if you work in your local market, just get some of your friends together who would, kind of be your target market, and do a good old fashioned just poll. And that can be a really great place to start, especially if you're trying to DIY your branding, or you're working with a web designer who maybe needs a little bit more of a collaborative approach on that. But
yeah. And, I would say involve as many people as you could. When it was potentially time for me to rebrand, I was thinking about it, because I realized that, where I started my business and where I am now is a very different place. And that's normal. It happened, so I went to people that I worked with before. I went to, direct confidants within the business community. And I went to family members, I went to people like my mom, who is not tech savvy, who struggles with every website she clicks on. And I got as much feedback and as many opinions as I could. And, of all the feedback I got, one of the things that really resonated with me, and she was right, my little sister, she said, it's boring. It doesn't at all match your personality, and I thought, wow, that's so legit, and my mom, she says, honey, this is I can't read all this, but just hearing that makes you go, okay, this is where I need to make these changes. So involve a lot of people. Don't just stick with one small group. Really get out there and be willing to hear what everybody has to say, because it's going to lead to better results and more growth.
Absolutely. And I think too, if you're going to ask for feedback, be open to hearing it. Feedback can be hard, especially when you're so close to your business or you're so close to the project that you're working on. And that's something I've personally also have had to work on, be open to feedback and open to what those people are telling you. But yeah, just a good old fashioned crowdsource is kind of dynamite when it comes to branding, when it comes to anything around marketing. Your best pool of knowledge is the people who are buying from you.
Yep.
The or not final thing, but what I'd like to segue into then on that point is talking about your call to action. What do you want people to do when they get to your website? Because that, whatever you feature most prominently or whatever you make very easy and clear to do is what they're going to do. So whether you offer a free consultation or you do a site visit or, whatever your business is, whatever your primary like action. And I think often like a good website call to action, it can just come even from whatever you offer offline, like whatever you offer to people offline, whatever your sales process is, whatever that beginning element of your sales process is. For me, it's a marketing audit because I can't help you know where to go if I don't know what you're currently doing. And so that's like the most prominent thing on my site is like, book a call with me so we can do a marketing audit. And so whatever you have, whatever your, call to action or draw in is, that should be one of the easiest and most accessible things on your site.
For sure. And, this is a segue that leads the design that we do, as marketing strategists leads to additional things down the road, like search engine optimizations and keywords and click funnels. None of those things, which, those are all buzzwords that you probably say, well, I've heard of that. And I know that at some point I need it, but I don't know exactly what it is. You can't really get that effectively if you don't have the right schematics in place. A website can very much be looked at as if you had a home that was digital, right? A home that lived online. The website is the foundation, which is really, really important. And if you're not doing all these extra things to draw attention into your website, it's really just a piece of art on a wall at that point, because it's not enough just to have it look good, right? You have to draw people to it. So there's all these additional digital marketing efforts that you eventually will add on, and you really need all of the right stuff in place on that website to get that to work well, because you don't want to waste money and you don't want to waste time. So these kind of rudimentary things we're going over with you on the website really do lead to an overall picture online that's reflective of your branding and your marketing and your sales. So it's really so critical, and it's just not talked about enough when people get education on things in our industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also to that point is Crystal makes a great point in that like your website truly is an extension of your business. It's not just like this little thing you bought online because someone told you you had to have one and you just don't feel like a real business if you don't have one. It's truly an asset. And if it's done well and optimized, I've worked with clients that have literally, when they've gone to sell their business because they had such a good digital presence, it increased the value of their sale of their business. So I think viewing it as an asset, in kind of just making a little bit of a mindset shift where, it's not a chore, it's not something I have to have, but nobody really uses it and it doesn't bring me a lot of business. If you can focus on nurturing it and turning it into an asset, it can become one of your most valuable tools.
Absolutely. And I'll pick on me for a little bit here. I heard it's boring. I heard it's too wordy, which as a content person, right? I mean, it's hard to eat your own dog food. It's hard to analyze your own things the same way you do for clients. We talked about this last week. Another profound thing that I heard is, why are you hiding behind a brand? Right? I had everything was Shine Consulting, but there was no me, and it wasn't clear who my partners were. And it, wasn't reflective of my personality, and all these things really led me to decide and I contacted Claire and I'm like, dude, it's time to rebrand. Like these are all ways that we can improve this. We need it to be more fun, more reflective of me and my personality and the things that I'm into. And the feedback that I got from that same big group of people, along with, my focus group and my mastermind group, world of difference. World of difference. You would be surprised the assumptions people will make about you and your business simply by the way your website looks and what it says. It's like one of those crazy dating shows where you look at a picture of somebody and you're supposed to pick if you would date them. How am I supposed to? I don't even know this person. I'm just looking at a picture of them. But our brains subconsciously are picking apart what are the things we're attracted to. What do we think this person's smile says about them or their clothes say about them? So even if we're not specifically judgmental people, judgment is a regular process that our brains do. It's a survival instinct, and it's just a thing that we do. And when we're looking online, we're doing it all the time. We're processing that so quickly, even when we don't realize it. So this is really, it's kind of the same principle. It's the Tinder for your business. I don't know if that's a good, I've never used Tinder. So I just made that up, people. But, you want people to swipe.
I think this is more of a Bumble crowd.
I don't know if you want them to swipe in the correct direction on your website, right? You want them to stay. You want them to
We've both been married for years. We don't know what we're talking about.
I don't know. I have no idea what I'm talking about. I met my wife the old fashioned way. I'm sorry. I'm very clueless. But to those of you that understand that world, think of it like that. When people say, oh, make a very nice, attractive profile picture with a beautiful smile that, makes you look like you're a good time, blah, blah, blah. It's the same principle. I want my readers I want them to like what they see. I want them to like what they read. I want it to be an enjoyable experience. I want them to feel something when they're doing it. And I don't want it to be a chore. And that's really the thought process you have, when designing this and going into this.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's great. It's great advice too, because your mindset is important, and how you approach this process is important. And if you approach it as a chore, it's going to be a chore. And not to kind of get preachy for a minute, but I think avoiding marketing is, I understand the overwhelm, but I really think if you guys start with this worksheet and with this audit, and we break it down through this series piece by piece. And we're here saying that as two people who have to do it for our own branding and our own marketing as well. And when you're doing it for a project that you're really, really close to, it can feel more overwhelming, or I think can feel more overwhelming. And Crystal, you're amazing, because you actually went out and really asked so many people, way more people than I asked on mine.
Oh man.
So, I tend to be a little bit more introverted, but
no, and I was very strategic when I made these groups. It's okay. There's going to be people that, I had it separated into all these little subgroups. So I said, okay, these are the people that I network with them. I see them every week. They know me very well professionally. They also know me personally. We're very close. And then I had the people that they only know me professionally. And then I had the people that only know me personally that don't understand or know anything about my business, that are just people in my friend circle. And then it's like guys that I play online games with that I've never actually met. Tell me what you think about me based on this. And as crazy as it sounds, it was so amazing to get all that different feedback and see the assumptions that are made about you. For one thing, that was really valuable to say, you don't know a lot about me, but these are the assumptions you made based on this site. And now the difference to this new, and that same group of people, that's where I saw the biggest difference. Is they felt like they knew me so much better after that rebrand came into place. And it was just going through that and just really getting all that feedback from all those different directions, former employers and clients and stuff. It's really invaluable. And I didn't necessarily like hearing all that stuff, but I didn't take offense to it, and I didn't take it negatively, because it was time to change. I changed my business model a lot since, I opened the business, and the ideas I had obviously changed. I changed. It was time. So just,
Well,
be willing to hear it.
that's another good point, is like, what if you're not happy with your current website, or you're going through this marketing audit and you're realizing your current website doesn't check off a lot of these things. It's not there. There's no shame here. Like, your business is a dynamic thing. It's not a static thing, and your website grows and needs to grow as your business does. So it's the website that Crystal made when she first started her business wasn't wrong.
It was good.
It no longer served her, and it no longer served the business that she now had. So I think it's a good point of, because your business is not static offline, your business is not static in your marketing either. And you see this with large companies too, as they grow and become different businesses. And you see really prominently with Apple. It was Steve Jobs, then no Steve Jobs, and then Steve Jobs. And that was 3 different companies, basically. So, it's only natural that you'll have to do these check-ins every 6 months to a year, and it doesn't mean you were doing it wrong before. It just means that that no longer serves you, and it's time to move on to the next.
Yeah, I mean, and even major companies rebrand, right? Pepsi Cola, they're not going to make any major formulary changes to their primary product line, but they are going to change their logo up. They are going to change their advertising campaigns up. I mean, it just keeps things from getting stale. But when I started the business, I started it very specifically working with other people, and I didn't realize how valuable just me as an individual was. And part of that was just not quite having the confidence that I would be enough to be the focal point of the marketing, because I went into it like, well, I'm not an arrogant person, and I think it's obnoxious that it's only me. I went into it with a whole different mentality. I went into it without as much confidence. And part of me went into it with fear. Like, I can't be an almost 40-year-old gay chick who wears like dudes clothing and Yoda t-shirts and expect this to work. Like, I can't do that. No, but you can, and you should, because that's why people love me, is because they'll just go, there's only one Crystal. Like, that's the first thing they'll say. And those are the things that, I was hiding behind a brand because I didn't know how to properly reflect who I was. And that's part of a learning process. And that's something that a lot of people go through. But I've seen all kinds of business professionals make that shift. There's one realtor locally who owns a ranch, and she owns a bunch of horses, and she only wants to list and sell ranch properties across the country and work with horse people. And she thought for 20 some years, I could never make a living doing that with real estate, cutting off all these, but she's so much happier and she's making more money than ever.
Yeah.
And that's kind
the
of,
riches are in the niches.
Yeah, for real, and so, and if, you guys have seen me on our little show here, and, you can look at my website and see that, I mean, I'm fun and goofy and kind of nerdy, and, it may be endearing to you. It may not be, but that's right. That's a thing.
Well, and I think just knowing that your only job is to show up as your authentic self in your business. What everyone else thinks or feels about that is their problem, right?
Yep.
Because the people who are completely attracted to your magnetism and your personality and whatever like very specific joie de vivre you have on your own, that's what sets you apart from your competition. That's what sets you apart from everyone else doing what you do. And so I think imposter syndrome is a thing, and it is really hard, and we all have fear and we all have insecurities. But if you just show up as yourself every single day in your business, and let the rest take care of itself, I think too.
Yeah,
so, and Crystal did that. She stepped out, and your website looks amazing.
Oh my God. I really love, I know, and Claire and I worked so closely together that's my baby. And, I love it. If I could technically I can carry it around in my pocket because I could pull it up on a phone. I do always have it open.
But, the kids.
Yeah. And, Claire and I have drastic different personalities, if you couldn't already tell, right? I am just, bah, 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 bah. When I walk into a room, I don't care, right? No F's given. Claire is much more reserved and quiet. And, it took me a while to figure Claire out. Like our our friendship and closeness took a while because Claire was an observer and, you know, watches people like a creep in the corner who doesn't say much. And, you know, that's just what introverted, quiet people do. But when you get to know Claire, there's absolutely no denying who she is, what she stands for, what she'll tolerate, what you don't have to be. She doesn't have to be as loud as I am because it's clear and it's obvious. And she makes sure to reflect that in her work. And Claire is the first person that will say, this isn't the right project for me because I know it doesn't align. And you can have that similar personality to her and still do that because she does that so well in her own space. She does it tailored to her personality and I do it tailored to mine. It happens to be different the way we do it, but it's the same messaging and it's the same set of morals in a way, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we will wrap it up on that because it's such an excellent point, and I think we're getting close to our time, but I hope this was helpful for you guys. If you have not grabbed the worksheet yet, please do. I will put the link in the comments below this video, and it's free. You can just go to our site and grab it. And
it's not hard. It's not hard either. It's like
it's
a short,
really easy worksheet. It's like 3 pages.
Yeah. And that's not long. It's like a really simple, I would be willing to bet at max, you're looking at 10 or 15 minutes to do it.
Yeah.
Don't overthink it. Just go with the first thing. And it's not hard to get through, but don't let the fear keep you from doing it. To say, you know, sometimes we don't want to know if there's anything wrong because what do we do if there is? Again, nothing's wrong about what you're doing. It's just we want to help you improve it. We want to help you make more sales. We want to help things make more sense for you guys and be in place better. And this is a great way to do that. But there's nobody here doing anything wrong. Like, we have to make that super clear. There's no wrong in marketing. There's just better ways to do things sometimes.
Agreed. Yeah, so grab that, and I put a link in there too. If you guys have any questions and you want to book a call with Crystal or I to go over it, you can do that as well. And otherwise, we'll see you next week. Peace.